Welcome to the first episode of Dying Out Loud. This is something that I have been so excited to bring to the world. It's a safe space for all of those conversations that we keep putting off, those words that we swallow, the love that we assume someone already knows about, or it can wait until tomorrow. My name is Kris. I'll be your host, and I'm here to tell you those things can't wait. Life is such a fragile, breathtaking, brutal miracle. And every second that we spend holding back is a second that we don't get back. This is not a show about dying. It's a show about refusing to die with your gratitude, your love, and your appreciation still inside you. Because one day, those words that you meant to say, they're going to turn into echoes. And one day, those hands that you meant to hold, they won't be there. So this is my invitation to you to live louder, love harder, and say those words today, right now, while you still can. Join me and my guests each week as we crack open our hearts, share our scars, and celebrate the people who make this short, beautiful life worth every breath we take. My guest today on this inaugural episode of Dying Out Loud is Gina Jacobson. Gina is one of the founding forces behind Publicist Group's Working with Cancer initiative. She creates and oversees all of the programs associated with delivering against the Working with Cancer pledge internally at Publicis. She's also committed to creating a multifaceted, best-in-class example of supporting employees impacted by cancer through individual and group coaching, training, and community engagement. Using this foundation, she also recruits and guides other companies to take and activate the pledge, which is exactly how I met Gina. In the fall of 2018, Gina was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And that is our common thread, as I also have stage 4 colon cancer. Gina's outlived her initial prognosis by several years. Congrats, Gina. That is amazing. And I love to hear that. And Gina intends to keep living a joyful and purposeful life while she continues to help others recognize and realize their full potential. We have so much in common. I'm so excited to welcome you to the show, Gina, and thank you for being my first guest.
Thank you for having me as a recovering pleaser. I hope I live up to your expectations as you kick off this podcast.
Awesome. I'd love just to hear a little bit about your story, whatever you want to share, your diagnosis, how this prompted you to get involved at work with Working with Cancer, anything you want to tell us, just to give us a little bit of a shape to how you became the awesome person that I've come to know.
My cancer diagnosis predates Working with Cancer by several years. I only recognized my situation because my boss encouraged me to go in. I made the comment that the only thing I wanted to eat was potato. And she was like, I thought it was funny. I thought it was a punchline. She recognized it as a warning sign, asked me if I had lost some weight recently. In fact, I had. And I think it's only because my boss told me to go to the doctor that I ultimately got myself checked out, and shortly thereafter got served a stage 4 colon cancer diagnosis. So I was at the height of my career, working all hours of the night, working on the biggest pitch of my professional life to date, pitching a major piece of business, and apparently walking around with 80% of my liver covered in tumor. That was really a rude awakening and changed my life. And I think went through treatment, all in lots and lots of cycles, 37 rounds of chemo, 3 surgeries, radiation, ablation, you name the therapy, I've done it. And I think throughout working and continuing to work was really important to me. And I was surprised at my own relationship with work. I think I told myself, oh, I'll work until and unless I get a recurrence. And then I recurred and I kept working, and another recurrence and I kept working, and really came to believe that the support that I received at work and being able to work was part of me recovering against the odds.
You're speaking my language. I
Yep.
was first diagnosed in my 30s with stage three. And fortunately, after 2 years of all of those things you named, I was fortunate enough to go into remission. And ironically, or I don't know if that's the right choice, I might have to ask Alanis Morissette because I might be confusing it like she did in the song. I got my diagnosis on the 10-year anniversary of my first diagnosis to the day. Weird full circle there, but I love the fact that you put yourself in this place where you're doing such inspirational work, and your ultimate focus is really empowering other people to live their best life. And contrary to popular belief, stage four cancer does not have to be a death sentence. There is so much life to live. And it's really, as I think I have come to believe, the power of that positive thinking, that ability to want and need to give back to others. And you hit the nail on the head too with the support that you receive at work. I honestly believe, and I share this at work regularly. My story has obviously been shared and repeated multiple times, but the part about that support from work is so true to, I think, who I've even become as a leader. It's tremendous. When you think about just your experience overall, what do you think helped you find that purpose in the middle of all that uncertainty, all of those medical tests and procedures? There's so much weight just in those things alone. What helped you find purpose?
It was a fascinating journey for me because I think I started as somebody who, my husband's first Facebook post about it said, as somebody who's always worked her way into the top 10% of anybody, we have no doubt Gina will overcome the odds and be in the top 10% here. And you probably recognize the 10%, right? That's the
Yeah.
expect to live 5 years, 10% odds. And I really set out to achieve my way through cancer. I really
High
thought that
five to that.
I thought the tools I had developed that got me to a point of professional success were going to carry me through, that I could work hard and do the research and do all the right things. And by golly, I would take cancer by storm. I was going to eat a green diet. I had all kinds of plans, Kris. And I will tell you, it only took one round of chemotherapy to have me on my knees going, wow, I probably shouldn't have opened my mouth. I was bragging about making my own nut butter, and that nut butter went rancid in the fridge because I couldn't follow my regular life's plan. And so I remember saying early on, I didn't want to fight that fight language didn't appeal to me as I approached my cancer diagnosis, but I fought like hell to stay the person I was and keep trying to use the tools that had gotten me thus far. And I think ultimately my purpose was revealed as it became more and more difficult for me to be the person I was. I tried to keep putting in 60, 70-hour work weeks. I tried to be the baller I was at work. I got to the point where I was doing almost nothing besides treatment, sleeping, working, not much else. And I feel like my cancer kept coming back and depleting me physically until I got to the point where I realized I can't do that anymore. And so it forced me into a point where I had to say, I can't do everything the way I used to do. What are the most important things? What can only I do? And how do I focus what energy I do have on those things and delegate the rest? At some point in your career, you have to learn how to play an impact game instead of a coverage game.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know that I would have gotten there if I had been physically capable of continuing to play a coverage game, and I just wasn't.
It's so interesting because I think this might be the first time that I have ever actually spoken to someone that also has stage four colon cancer. That probably sounds very weird, but I think it is 100% true. And to hear you speak what my reality is, it's so powerful to me because obviously I know that there's a myriad of ways that a cancer experience can go for folks. And to your point, I'm not much of the cancer fighter. That's not really my
Right.
terminology either. I prefer to, it's an experience or a journey.
I'm a lover, not a fighter, I used to tell people.
I mean, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that absolutely defines who I am as well. I'm curious, when you talked about the support that you received from work earlier, I'm certain that based on your husband's Facebook post also, you have a great support system in and outside of work or in and outside of home, however you decide to choose or chew on that rather. But what role do you think that support and gratitude played in your healing?
We joke, my husband and I are both like you in the advertising world. We joke I had the best branded cancer diagnosis in history. Early on, he asked me, should I ask for prayers? What should I ask people to do? And I had started to visualize stars like nipping away at my tumors. I said, like those chicken and stars that your mom used to give you when you were sick. I was visualizing those. I said, have people visualize stars with me. And he shortened that to, you can send Gina stars if you're thinking of her, which
I
was,
love that.
I don't know that we even realized at the time that people really do have difficulty figuring out what to say or what to do. And in introducing unintentionally iconography, we helped people to get past that. And it was really powerful to be not just hearing from people from all parts of my life, most of those people from work, because that is where you start to get the bulk of your social connections at some point. And to have people be able to literally send me star emojis or the stars they saw in the tiles at the chapel they visited in Portugal. I've received, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of stars in all kinds of forms. And so just to know that people are out there thinking of you was really potent and powerful. And I think in particular, one of the lessons I learned that is directly related to gratitude is the vulnerability that's required to put yourself out there and say, I need help and I need support. And it's hard to say I need help, but it's easy to say, I need stars. And so when I was at my lowest point, I could say, I could use some stars tonight, and I would literally get flooded and know that people were out there thinking of me. And that was so powerful to feel like you could ask for it. And there wasn't a single time that I did that at least one person wouldn't have come back to me and said something along the lines of, I'm so glad you're up because I'm worried about something. I'm about to get a cancer diagnosis of my own. I'm struggling with something else. And so every time I asked for support, I found myself in a position where I was able to give support in that moment. And that is what kept turning it around for me again and again.
Love that. It sounds like that support that you were able to give as you were receiving it becomes like a great non-pill formed medicine. I think
Absolutely, right? It's, oh, I can immediately make meaning from this suffering or this fear or this thing I'm going through. I can immediately transfer it into helping somebody else. And so, yeah, just the distraction power of it, I think that is part of that post-traumatic growth is how do I make meaning from this bad thing that happened to me and help to figure out how to pay it forward. I always wound up feeling better. And yes, part of that was knowing that other people was thinking of me, but usually it was because I found myself in a moment of being able to comfort somebody, even though an hour prior, I was the one who really needed the comfort.
that's incredible. I definitely can echo that sentiment. I think I've definitely found, especially lately, that the more I lean into the type of impact I'm able to have on other people, the sharing, I can recall a time where a friend of mine at work actually reached out to me and said, hey, my best friend is actually dying of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I don't know what to do or what to say. And I'm not a really prescriptive person. I'm a coach by trade at this point, and
Right.
I oftentimes find solutions by asking the folks I'm talking with questions. And I think the only prescriptive advice I gave in that is, you know what? If you have to just sit in silence on the phone and just be there, you're doing so much. You don't have to say the right thing or figure out a message. It's not necessarily about baking a casserole. It can be a moment of just togetherness And that there's so much magnitude there. Just showing up. Stars for you. I think a simple text saying hugs worked for me. It's something different for everybody, but it doesn't have to be like this huge, like on the edge of the earth effort
It
that people are
doesn't,
making.
I think the key is it doesn't need to be the solution, right? I think we're all equipped to try to want to race in and make things better or say the right thing or console somebody by telling somebody it's going to be okay. It may not be okay.
That's right.
And you don't have the responsibility as a supporter to be trying to change that situation or change somebody's perspective. The advice I always give to people is the more specific you can be about an offer that is personal to you, the more likely or the easier it is for somebody to take you up on it. So I loved people who would approach me and say things like, hey, I'm always looking for new recipes to make. So when you're craving a family favorite, I'd love to make it for you because, and it made me feel like not only are they doing something for me, but I'm doing something for John's
Yeah.
looking for a new recipe. Oh, look at that. I did something valuable. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. I had somebody say, I find myself at Target every day. So when you need something from Target, I'm the person you should call. I'll tell you what, there did come a day when I needed something from Target and it made it easy for me to reach out. So I think it doesn't need to be everything, and it can be something really little and specific to you or your passion, your skill, your traffic pattern, the place you pass every day to or from work or picking up the kids. All of those things can end up being useful offers that somebody might take you up on.
And quite honestly, those are the things that we need the most. Our goal is to keep our lives moving in the direction that it was moving before we found out about our
Yeah.
diagnoses. And certainly, things like getting the kids to and from school, a meal every once in a while, especially the way that you have framed it. What a great thing to do. Share a recipe, someone makes it. I think that you're engaging folks and letting them know, hey, I'll help you out. You're helping me out. This is
Right.
great. Shifting gears just a little bit, it's so much the most recent effort from working with cancer, I feel, is the effort that talked a lot about that. What's your strength? How can you show up for people? And I just loved that idea so much because look, we're talking a lot more about cancer today than we ever have before. Honestly, I recall when my grandmother was still alive, she wouldn't even say the word cancer. It was almost a curse word. And today, I don't think there goes by a day that I am not talking to someone about cancer or giving them some helpful hints on how to maneuver a certain situation. It's really interesting. But I'd love to hear just a little bit more about like how this this situation in your life has become so in tune with the work that you're doing at working with cancer, and would just love to hear your perspective because I can only imagine that this has to be like such an amazing like connection of your whole being and what you've worked your life in terms of your career. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how this has all come together for you.
So, Kris, as a coach, I think you're going to enjoy this. And I will tell you that although right now it may look like, oh, Gina is at this point of perfect alignment where her background as a new business pitching person corresponded with her experience as a stage 4 cancer survivor. And now she lives a purposeful life. When this first came my way, I fought it tooth and nail. I had made a flippant comment to my boss's boss at dinner one night. I had heard that our group CEO had an idea about an initiative to help reduce stigma for people who are working with cancer. And I said, that sounds so amazing. The support I received at work was so crucial to my own journey. I'd love to help if ever there's a chance for me to do something. And I was picturing giving like a 30-second testimonial on a video. I thought that's what they would want a quote from me, a little smiling head with a quote somewhere. And instead, a week or two later, I got an email that essentially said, this is your new job. And man, I'll tell you, it was not, I'm sure my therapist thought I had more than one session with me where she was a little exasperated because the truth is the world was putting something perfect right into my lap, but I didn't recognize it. I was still fighting to live my old life and fighting to be in my old position. And so it didn't come as easily as you might have expected. And then I think over time, as I started to understand what I could do and how consistent it was the red thread through my career, which is I'm always helping people or organizations to understand what potential exists. If I can get them to believe in that potential and activate behind that potential, like how much better could things be? And so it just became a different pitch, right? A pitch not about what your agency could do for your
That's right.
business, but what you could do as a company for your people to help make them feel safer. And I think that's what we see is that there's a huge gap between the fear people experience, the work related fear that people experience when they're first diagnosed about what that will mean for them at work. And most of them actually do have a positive experience. So, how do we close that gap so that there's less fear upfront? If there's less fear upfront, people will feel more comfortable talking about a diagnosis. And frankly, everything else will go better. They'll get the support they need, they'll get the accommodations they need, the time they need, they'll be empowered to work on their own terms. But all of that starts with feeling safe enough and confident enough that you can talk about what's happening at the very beginning and have the confidence to know that your organization has your back. And so that's what we talk with companies about now is don't wait until somebody gets diagnosed, but how do you make a commitment to your people so that from the very first moment that they're hearing that bad news, they know that you will be behind them when they need it most.
Love that. It brings me back to whenever I think I first reached out to you and I'm like, tell me more about this. This is pretty incredible. And I did all my research, I built my own deck, presented it to our CEO. They had already shown up for me, right? They had already given me a safe space to be open and transparent. And it was so obvious to me that they wanted to make sure that however long or short my life would be at that point. And doctors, oncologists, they don't really give time frames anymore. But the fact that for folks that have stage 4 colon cancer, there's a 3% chance that you actually have growth in your kidneys. And my right kidney was completely like just eaten up with tumors, and both of my lungs were, and never been a smoker in my life. But here I was with lung tumors and kidney tumors, and was just feeling
Rough
so hopeless.
diagnosis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So back in those days, 3 years ago, even
Yeah.
not really having time frames, they said this could be as soon as 9 months, it could be 2 years. I'm almost at 3 now. I've been on chemo the entire time, which is a-okay, because as you can see, I don't look like I have stage 4 cancer.
No.
I say that in air quotes because I don't think there's really a look for it. And I think everybody experiences it in a different way. But listening to you share a little bit more about the work that you've done with working with cancer, really how that's connected to your life, it leads me to what one thing that will be present in every episode of our podcast here is a moment of gratitude or appreciation or an expression of love from me to the guests that I have. And this is no different. I definitely want to take this moment that we have today to just truly thank you, not just for the work that you do, the message that you are responsible for sending out into the world, but really for the way that you've shown up in the world. And you may not realize this, but you've shown up in my world in just such an amazing and magical way. When I first learned about the Working with Cancer Pledge, felt something shift in me. From my first experience with stage 3 colon cancer, I knew that I always have a big mouth anyway. And I knew that I wanted to share my story and really start working to help this become like part of our conversation. People have cancer. More people and a lot of us are still too afraid to talk about it.
Right.
So
Right.
learning about working with cancer, it just resonated with me so deeply because you're basically saying what I had felt for a decade after my first diagnosis. And really, I credit you and the work that you've done. You really have taken like the hardest things that a human can live through, and you turned it into a movement. And that movement is going to outlive all of us. It's not a small thing. And I want you to share that message back with everybody on your team
Oh,
because you've helped make room for compassion in spaces that always have prized performance over people,
right.
especially in our industry. And you reminded me, and quite honestly, I think you've reminded everyone in our organization that through your voice and your example, that telling the truth in full color, that is going to save lives.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate hearing that. And I will tell you that at the very beginning of this, when we didn't know, we didn't know what this would become or if it could become anything, I think your reaction to it is one of the first moments where I truly believed we could change that perspective. And I think reduce fear by showcasing strength to replace the stigma that people were feeling
I,
and help people to see that strength can be a part of the way you grow and develop through something like this, life's most powerful non-elective course. I've heard it described as, and I think that's
that,
true.
that is no joke. That is for
Yeah,
sure. It just as we wrap up here today, I just, again, you have helped me feel seen, validated, and more human than I ever imagined possible. And the whole Working with Cancer organization and publicists and Arthur, your CEO, thank you all for just being a beacon of hope for so many people, including me. I'm so grateful for you, for the story that you shared with us today, your leadership, and most importantly, your heart, because that is where all of this started. I'd love to just ask you a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. What do you feel like from our conversation today? What do you think leaders should take away, or how can listeners bring Working with Cancer to their own organizations? I'm absolutely sharing a link so they'll have a way to find you. I know
great.
people can find you on LinkedIn. They can also find Working with Cancer on LinkedIn. If you do a Working with Cancer search, you're going to pull up all kinds of great information. Any other places that they should go, or what you think leaders should?
I think if they've got the links, one thing that is clear is that the companies who are signing up because of individual champions at each organization, Gail took action because of you and you championing the initiative. And I think you had the confidence to know that they would be supporting you, but not everybody at your organization has the same relationship with the leadership that you did when you were diagnosed. They might be newer to the organization, they might be younger. And so, particularly if this is something that touches you and you feel like you've got an audience and influence with your leadership, please, people like you having the conversation are why companies are taking the pledge. So many companies are doing so many great things and employees don't know about it. So the pledge is an easy shorthand to communicate support without having to communicate all the individual RTBs of the benefits that people might experience. So I'd really encourage you to do that. We have all kinds of resources on this site that we can guide you to about how to have a conversation, how to send the first email. But I want to underscore it's not really about individuals at Working with Cancer driving the momentum behind this. We are now 3,000 companies strong because people like you, Kris, are taking action. And when they do, they make their whole workforce feel more comfortable when and if that bad day comes. So
Oh,
I'll just put a line out for follow us. And when you're ready to champion,
I
we'll be ready to support you.
cannot wait to check back in with you and hear that number is 5,000 or 6,000. Let's continue
You and my
this work.
CEO both.
It's going to happen. I think it's just such a great movement. And again, for companies that are really looking for a way to show their employees that there is value in each of them as individuals, it's just a huge nod to the human element of what we do. And absolutely, the dollar drives the business world, but you can't earn those dollars without people. And this is such a great way to acknowledge that. Gina, thank you for being here. Listeners, thanks for listening. And really, just thanks for being part of this ripple of love and gratitude. Today's conversation moved you. If something inside is stirring right now, I can tell you that is your heart reminding you that you are still alive. Don't let this just be another episode that you finish and forget. Let it be the spark that moves you to call someone you love, to tell them that they matter, to say thank you, to say, I'm proud of you, I'm sorry, maybe I forgive you. Whatever you have unfinished inside you, this is the moment to finish it now. We don't get forever. We only get this moment, this heartbeat, and this breath. So please take it and use it. And above all, don't just live out loud. Keep showing up. The world is definitely aching for your presence and your contribution. And whenever you show up, it's so much better. Gina, before we sign off, any final words for our listeners?
You have framed everything I could say. I am so inspired to go continue to do this work. And I hope everybody's got that stir in their heart and knows how they can, I don't know, make the right call and move something forward in their own lives. So thank you so much.
I love that. Thank you again. And listeners, a reminder to not wait. Say the damn thing already and always love out loud. Gina, thank you.
Thanks, Kris.